Hey guys, so this is the first step in getting your image ready so that you can throw it into the Impasto tool and paint it and make it look all the things. So I'm just going to be using stamps for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my florals here because I've tested it with this one already. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that to my canvas. Okay. Now, I do not have to make this a reference layer like we normally would, but what I'm going to do is every single layer that you want a different color or a different direction needs to be a different color. So since my petals, let me go ahead and swap to the brush that we're going to be using. And I'm going to link this for you guys everywhere that I can for the Impasto tool. But the direction of the petals, if you're painting, you're going to go like this and you're going to go like that. So every single one of those petals needs to be a different color. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to start dragging colors in. It does not matter what color you use for this because we are going to be changing the colors in the tool. This is simply so that it can read it as an SVG, remove anything that's needed, and make it a vector so that it can start applying all of our edits that we want. And let me see, I didn't do an orange. Okay, so now that I have all of the different colors, we're going to be using the oil paint brush. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm actually just going to trace over. I'll do this on a new layer, but you don't have to. I'm going to trace over like this. That's a little bit too big. Let me bump it down. There we go. And what we're doing this for, you do not have to do this if you don't want to, but I do not want a regular edge. I want a painted edge for this. So I'm going to color match every single color and go ahead and layer these. Just want to make sure there's not a lot of gaps in there. You can go back with a monoline brush if you want. And then use this as just like an edge tool. So I have the pressure held down really hard for this. Okay. All right, I'm just going to keep turning it. Let's go to the blue. And what brush you use for this portion just determines what your edges are going to look like. Because once we apply the layers on this in the studio, it's going to do a clipping mask, and you guys are going to actually put the imposter textures on top of this for the ones that are not wanting to hand draw it. Now, I do have a tutorial with a watermelon slice if you guys are wanting to get the brushes and hand draw everything from scratch. But this is not for that reason. And I'll fix the brush. I just need to fix to where it's pushing it around because I do not want that. I do not want it to blend like that for this purpose. And then I need my yellow because I'm going to do it on top. Like I said, I'm just trying to make it easy to read when it goes in, because if it has too many like jagged edges where the colors blend, you want the jagged edges right here where our the end of our tool is going to be done, but we don't want it overlapping too bad right here, because you see how that's really super transparent, so it's going to have a hard time reading that. So let me go ahead really quick and let me go wet mix and turn our pull down and our dilution. I'm just going to turn all those down because I didn't want that. Now then, much better. Fix that in the middle. So now it's just leaving that small little thin streaky edge. You can get wonky with this. You can do however you want it to look. And then let me go ahead and do my leaf, because this is the last step. So on the leaf part right here, I don't want it to really overlap the blue and the purple because they already have edges, but I do want it to overlap down here because it needs its own little texture edge there. Almost done. Put those back up just a little bit. Oh my gracious, that one little spot is going to drive me insane. Okay. Like I said, you don't have to do all of this with the same brush. It's really just going to depend on how you want it. Okay. So once we have our layers and everything done, I'm going to turn the background off because we don't want a background for this one. I am going to go PNG and I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then once I have this saved to my files, I'm going to pull it in and we're going to start the video in the actual design studio. Okay, so now I am in the design studio and I know I'm still working on some things. Excuse me. I know I'm still working on some things, so you guys just bear with me, but we're going to Impasto Paint and I'm going to pull in my PNG that we have created. And I want to count the colors. You can do this before or after, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need 7 colors. Even if you only have one color, it'll drop the colors down to 2 for you, and then you can just ignore the second color option there and just adjust 1. And then I'm just going to leave this as is. Make sure that the treat corners as transparent. Separate the colors. So now we have all of our colors separated, and this is what your tool is going to look like. So the first things first is I want to get my yellow and I want to move it all the way up. You don't have to, but I'm just going to group them for how I'm working with them. So I moved my yellow to color 1, and I want to make sure my green is my bottom layer. So all of my petals are there together. So green is here. I'm going to go ahead and start changing the colors for this. So I want it a much brighter color. And then we're going to pick the color of our petal, and let's just do like a really bright red. I think that'll be very pretty. And then once you've done your colors, you can actually just scroll and click and change it for what you need it. And then I do want my yellow to be a little bit of a brighter yellow. Now I have my base images showing. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go and I'm going to enable, just for color 1, the impasto texture. Now I already have these for you guys, so you will upload them. Okay, so these are all of the impasto textures that I have for you. And one of my favorites, so I'm going to use this one for the inside of the flower here. And what we're going to do is we're going to scale it down. It's going to automatically be multiply. So it does have some different blend modes for you guys. But multiply tends to be the best version of this. And then I'm also going to turn on the raised edge bevel. Now, as soon as you click it, it's going to look kind of crazy. But I turn all of the highlight down. I'm going to change my color. So I'm going to use my color picker here. Pick a color of the yellow, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker. And as I'm making changes, you can see what it is doing. And then I'm going to do a softness to it, which is basically just a blur. And then I want to make the light angle to where it's kind of in the top left corner for this one. And then right here is the last thing I like to do, and that's where you can just make it bigger or smaller. And then you can go over here and lower the opacity as needed. So I'm going to leave it about right there. Now, the fun thing that I have installed for you guys is beside the up and down buttons, this is a toggle just so that you can toggle a layer off if you would like to. But then you also have this one. So once you get this first one set up, click copy and it will copy to all of the other options that you guys have. Now I am going to change the stroke for this part and the stroke for the leaf because I want different textures for everything. And then we'll adjust a little bit each petal. So I don't need to mess with the yellow anymore. So I'm going to go in to my impasto texture and I am going to choose number 6. This is by far probably one of my favorites. 11 is also a good one, but I really do like number 6. So I'm going to go ahead and load in number 6 and I am going to move the direction of what the petal would naturally flow. And I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of these. So I'm going to click in, go number 6, move the direction. And we'll go back in and make some changes here in a minute, but I just want the correct textures everywhere. And this is why we go through this step of doing all of the different colors for the petals, because if I had not done that and I just had the petals for one color, then it would only let me adjust it to one direction. And then it wouldn't look like we actually did a stroke. It would look like we just applied this overlay, right? And we kind of want it to be as realistic as possible without us having to manually paint every single petal, because I do not want to do that. I may do that sometimes, but not for fun. Okay, so now I have the impasto texture number 6 loaded in on everything. I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up. And we're actually going to change the color for the raised edge bevel right there, the color for it, for the shadow. And I'm going to go to a red for that. And I'm going to bump it down just a little bit. And then it pops up right here so you guys can just color pick it. And this is going to be for all of the petals. And then I am almost done. It can be a little bit of a process, but you have to think how much longer it takes you to do these in Procreate. And the answer to that, personally, for me, is quite a while. Okay, so we don't want the green one, but we do want the green one to have a dark green. And you can adjust this and get everything right for the petal and then go in and adjust some of this. I'm kind of just doing some bulk adjustments for the petal layers. And I'm going to change to this one for the leaf. And now I have it in the correct pattern. So the last thing that I have to adjust, the green one is pretty much good. I can make it bigger if I want a bigger stroke around here. And that's all that's doing is adding a little shadow to the edge. It helps it to raise a little bit. But I am going to go into the light angle and the opacity. So we are now in that top right corner up there. And I'm going to do the opacity up a little bit now that I've changed the red. I adjust it so that I know which petal I'm messing with. Okay. Like I said, I'm just doing the opacity up so it raises that edge a little bit. It looks more like a stroke. It wasn't showing correctly earlier because of the in just a second. It wasn't showing correctly earlier because we had the yellow picked. So I want to go. Boom. And I missed one, so let me finish swapping that one last color. Okay, let me make sure I got all of my colors correctly. So I have yellow, yellow, red, 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 green, green. Okay. And now we're pretty much done. So, I mean, you can go all the way down here. I like to do the original size because my images are already 3000 by 3000, but you can go 2x or 3x, whichever you would like. And then I'm just going to name this as a flower, download it, and then I'm going to show you guys what it looks like finished. And the good thing about this is I'm actually going to save this profile for you guys and save this project file, and then you will be able to load in all of my adjustments here, and then you can just swap out the picture. So let me do that really quick so I don't lose it. So we're going to go flower, download our project, and then I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when I swap. So I'm going to use an SVG that I already have saved in here on my laptop. Yes, on my laptop. And go into SVGs. Let's see here. Let's do Mardi Gras. Because I know that I have I don't have that one. Let me find one. We'll do this mask here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to bump that down to 5. Separate colors. And you see how it has already applied everything. Now, I only did 3 colors because I only have 3 colors for it to pick from. I had the purple, the yellow, and the green. But now you've already got this adjustment mostly done. Now, for this one, obviously, I would have done this in Procreate because I don't want the edges to be completely straight like that. I want it to have that really pretty texture. But then you would literally just be able to go in here and change the direction right here of your painted textures. And then let me show you here. And do this last one here. And then you would just go in and change your colors and you would already have that base done. So it doesn't matter if you're using the project that I saved for you guys as a flower, just go ahead and load that in. It gives you a base template to work from so that you're not starting from scratch. And then as you do this more, you'll get used to it and then you'll be able to do more. But I hope this helps. I'm super excited for all of the new tools and I'm hoping to have the other 2 and 3 up in the next day or 2.